Hello all. Today's video is going to be a real treat for you all. Today, I'm going to take you through installing Linux Mint on real hardware for the very first time. So, sit down, relax, grab a cup of coffee, get the laptop out, and let's get to work. Hello all. Now, as I said, the distro that we're going to use today is going to be Linux Mint, and the reason for that is pretty simple. It's because it's generally the best distro for new Linux users. So if you're installing Linux for the first time, it's going to be the best choice. Also, in my case, because it's very stable, it's a good choice for a backup computer too. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to linuxmint.com. Yes, we're starting out that far back. And when you get to linuxmint.com, you're going to go right here and you're going to click download. And you've got 3 versions you can pick from. You've got the Cinnamon Edition, you've got the XFCE Edition, and the Mate Edition. And really, I'm going to be honest, they all work pretty good. I'm going to go with the Mate Edition here, though, because I haven't used that one in a while, and I really like Mate. So we're going to go download. And then, when you go to download, you're going to get a list of mirrors. And the one I'm going to go with today is the University of Waterloo Computer Science Club. We're going to hit save. All Linux Mint ISOs, by the way, are 64-bit now. And while that downloads, we're going to have to get a USB ready. So how we're going to do that is I'm going to use Ventoy. And so, So to use Ventoy, you go to the website, you go to the downloads option, and since I'm running Linux, I'm going to go for the Linux tar file. If you were running Windows, you would go for the Windows zip, so I'll download that too, just to show you how it works. Now, yes, Ventoy is on SourceForge, which is definitely a little weird, but it is actually licensed under the GPL, so it is open source. And there are reasons that I use it. The reason I use Ventoy is twofold. One is that it is completely cross-platform. It's the exact same on it's the same on Windows as it is on Linux. So we got those 2 downloads started here. The other reason that I use Ventoy is because once a USB is created with Ventoy, you don't have to burn the other USBs to it. You can just drag and drop the files, which is really cool. The drawback to it is that Ventoy only works with FAT32, so ISOs that are bigger than 4.4 gigabytes will not work. Luckily, Linux Mint does a very good job of keeping the ISOs quite small. And the ISO that I am downloading right now is only 2.8 gigabytes. So, the Ventoy download is done. We're going to open it up with an archive manager. I'm using Arc because I'm on KDE. And when you open it up, the easiest way to do this on Linux is to go extract. Now, I already did this before just to kind of test it out, but I'm going through the whole process again with you guys to show you guys. So, I'm going to go extract, and I should drop it in my home folder. Okay, we put it in downloads, so let's go check out. So, Ventoy. So, what you do, it automatically extracted it to downloads, in case you're wondering, which, okay. So, what you do with Linux is you go to WebSH, you click execute. Actually, the easier way to do this is you go to, you can open up a terminal in the downloads folder as well, because that did not work for me. So we're going to go Ventoy web H. There we go. And now that runs, that starts a Ventoy server daemon. And what we're going to do is we're going to navigate to the IP address right there. So what this does is this sets up Ventoy on a web interface. All right, so now we get this option here, which says device, Ventoy and device, Ventoy and package. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the device that we want to use. So give me one moment here. And there we go. Now I already had Ventoy on this USB stick because I was using it before. But what we're going to do is we're going to hit install anyway, just to show you guys the process. Yes, double click. Status, perfect. And there we go. That just formatted the USB drive for us. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you very quickly what you would do if you were on Windows. So we're going to go to Ventoy Windows.zip. And for Windows, what you would do is you would just extract, you would just hit extract, and you'd hit ventoy to disk.exe. And then it'll run you a very similar interface to what you just saw on the web interface. And now we're just going to wait for the Linux Mint to finish downloading, and I'll be back. And here we are. Now Linux Mint has finally finished downloading. And I'm going to show you guys a really cool part here with Ventoy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into a file manager, whatever file manager you're using. I use KDE, so we're going to go Ventoy, because what it does is it renames the flash drive Ventoy. And now for the really cool part, we're going to open up downloads in a new window. We're going to take that Linux Mint 22 ISO and we're just going to drag it and drop it. And that's all there is to it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the laptop that I'm going to install this on going, and I'll see you over there. Now here we are on the Linux Mint desktop from the live CD. Now, before I go any further, there's a couple of things I want to explain, because once you flash the USB with either Ventoy or Balena, it should just automatically work when you plug it into your PC and reboot it. If it doesn't, then there are two things you have to do. First, you have to check and make sure Secure Boot is turned off. Secure Boot will be the biggest pain in the butt ever. The other thing is that you need to make sure that the boot order is set correctly in your BIOS. What that means is you have to go through your BIOS settings and make sure that the USB is set to boot first. And how that is going to work is going to be specific to your hardware. So I can't really show you here on my hardware because it's going to be completely different on yours. So without further ado, we're going to get into the first step. We're going to connect to the network. So we're going to go click the network in the bottom there, the little arrows going back and forth like this. And we're going to go available networks. We're going to look for the network we want, which in this case is Bell XT2. And it's going to ask us for our password. Here we go. Now we're connected. And now you want to connect to the network before you start the installer, because the installer will have some steps that are going to want a network connection. So we're going to go install Linux Mint. Now, in case you're wondering, the laptop that I am installing this on right now should be pretty analogous to most of the hardware that somebody installing Linux is going to be using. It's a 4-year-old Acer Aspire 3, so not the oldest thing in the world, but definitely not brand spanking new either. So we're going to go English, English US. This is the options there. That was the options to check any other languages that you might want to. We're going to install the multimedia codecs. You want that, even though it's not as big a deal as it used to be, but you still want the multimedia codecs because that's what's going to allow you to play different file formats. Linux Mint used to have a real reputation about being really good about those. And it still is, but they're not really as big of a deal as they used to be. So, we're going to go, in this case, we're going to go erase disk and install Linux Mint. This is actually what I recommend. I don't actually recommend dual booting. But if you did want to dual boot, this is the option that you would select. Now, why do I not recommend dual booting? The reason I do not recommend dual booting is because Windows tends to not play very nice with Linux bootloaders, and thus sometimes you can end up it either not detecting your Linux partition or something weird happening and not being able to boot from Windows and then losing all your Windows data. I've had both happen to me. Well, especially the latter one. The first one is a bigger issue these days, so I'm going to pick where I am. Yeah, that's the screen where you use to pick your time zone, so we're going to go. And that sets your system time. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to put in our user information that we want to use here for our local account. None of this is online, by the way. Okay, you're going to want to click yes to require your password to log in. I mean, you can log yourself in automatically if you want. And don't encrypt the home folder. Not unless you actually have a reason to, because it can make your life a pain in the butt if you ever want to copy your home folder to an external hard drive as a backup. So we're going to click continue. And now the installer is just going to run and do its thing. Now that we've let the installer run for a couple of minutes, we can see now that it's just downloading the language packs. It's already copied all the files and begun installing the base system, so it should be just another few more minutes. And here we are, back at the Linux Mint desktop. I'm going to put my password in right quick. And this is what it should look like right after you install it. Now, give me 1 second here. I'm going to fix the settings here. Yeah, it makes it a lot more usable for me now. This is the first thing you get when you first sign in or when you first set up Linux Mint, is you always get a welcome screen, and the welcome screen has lots of useful things on it for you. So, now you might be asking, well, we got it installed, now what? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the Update Manager. We're going to hit OK. And we're going to hit Install Updates. We're going to click OK. And put your password in. Go. And we're going to let that do its thing. You can actually click the show individual files. That'll give you a great idea of how things are going. But in the meantime, we can do some other things. We can't install software while the updater is running because it does what you call locking the package manager. So it doesn't allow you to install updates and software at the same time because the updates are using the package manager. It's just how pretty much all Linux distributions work. In fact, I'm going to take a minute and explain that to you, because if you're new to Linux, you probably don't even know what a package manager is. A package manager is how you install software on Linux. Instead of going out and grabbing it out of the wild somewhere on the internet, on Linux, you have servers that are called repositories that are set up for your distribution of Linux, in this case Linux Mint, and then your package manager on your individual computer retrieves the packages, which is the software you want to install, from these repositories and installs it. So everything is much more centralized, much more cleaner than it is on Windows. Because generally these repositories are run by your distribution, and they have the versions of software for your distribution. So, now I got that out of the way, I'm going to show you how you can change a couple of things here. Guys, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the appearance. And we're going to change off of this light theme, because I don't really like this light theme. And these are all the themes that we can choose from. The really nice thing about Mate is that and one of the reasons I really like it is that it is super customizable. Let's go with Mint Dark Blue. I think I like the look of that. I think I like the look of that quite a bit. That's a nice one. So, with Mate, with Linux Mint in particular, one of the unique things to Linux Mint is that you have the Mint menu, and the Mint menu gives you this kind of 3-column menu. You have places and system, applications, and then the submenu to your applications. And it works very, very well. It's very easy to use and makes things very, very plain. We can also change the background. We've got a number of preloaded backgrounds. I'm going to go with all these preloaded backgrounds you can choose from. You can get more online too. In fact, let me show you guys how to get more themes online in case you don't like any of the ones you got here. If you click the link, it brings you to, if you click this little link right here, it brings you to mate-desktop.org/themes. We just gotta wait for this to run. Let's check on our updates here. Updates are still going. Firefox can be a bit slow sometimes, sadly. In a minute, I'm going to install, show you guys. Okay, no, it looks like we had a minor incident with the internet there, where the internet just kind of dropped for a second. But no worries, we're back on track. So the updates are still running, although if you lose internet connection while the updates are running with Linux Mint, there's nothing to worry about. It's not going to cause you a big deal. All it'll do is it'll install the updates that you already have downloaded, and then allow you to install the other updates once you get your internet back. Very, very good like that. So, now, this next step is an optional step, but I want to do it before we reboot and get them more updates. So, what I'm going to show you guys how to do here is install the Licorice kernel. Now, this is a completely optional step, but the reason I do recommend it is if you have more modern hardware, it gives you a more up-to-date kernel than the Linux Mint distro kernel. So it gives you some up-to-date drivers and stuff like that to work with. So I'm going to show you guys how to install this one. So now this here, okay, is going to require a little bit of command line. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that curl command. We're going to We're going to take that curl command. I'm going to go Control C. We're going to open up our terminal. We're going to go Control V. You have some kind of okay, good. Nope, that was just it being a bit of a brain fart for me. I was wondering for a second there if there was some kind of block on copy and pasting it, but there isn't. Now, what this is a script that will install and the Licorice kernel for us. And the reason I'm showing you guys this is for much more up-to-date hardware support. There, now that is done. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys one last thing before we reboot. And I'm going to show you guys how to install Steam. So you're going to go Software Manager. I know you guys, this is probably the part you're all looking to skip forward to, so. Alright, so now this gives us a whole bunch of different pieces of software that we can install. And it comes with nice flat hub integration too, which allows you to install Flatpaks, which are absolutely great in my opinion. Not going to get too into it in this video, but they allow much easier maintenance. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for Steam. We're going to install the system package here. It'll ask you for our password again. And now we got Steam installed. Show you where it goes right here. Games. And there we have install Steam. Now Steam is going to run a bunch of updates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reboot so we can run that other set of updates. and Steam at the same time. And this will let us reboot into the Linux kernel, and I'll show you guys that it actually works quite well. And we're back at the Linux Mint desktop. Well, let's just finish up here, because, by the way, little note, this is where you would go if you wanted to install proprietary drivers. This machine doesn't require any. This is for setting up your backups. Super handy. I'm going to launch that right now. I highly, highly recommend it. We're going to use rsync. We're going to kind of let that do its thing. Now from here we can also launch our update manager, like I mentioned a minute ago. So we're going to hit refresh. We're going to go next. We're going to go next, and we're going to hit finish on that. And now Timeshift is active. You can just follow the wizard. It's super easy to use. So it looks like Linux Mint has actually installed all the updates for us. I was not really expecting that, but the last thing here is Steam. I'm going to show you guys how to get Steam going. Steam is a proprietary binary-only software, yes. I'm going to show you guys a quick little command that you guys can run if you want to know how to do it. This is completely, again, this part is completely optional, but I want to double check to make sure that those updates actually installed. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this. I'm going to keep that over there.
Michael, turn the air conditioner up to 20.
Sorry about that brief interruption there. So this is the command I wanted to show you guys. We're going to go sudo apt upgrade. We're going to put our password in. Yes, Linux does ask for your password a lot. And see, that is how you upgrade. You run your updates through the command line if you want to do it. The Mint updater generally works pretty good, as you can see, because it's showing me the exact same thing that the updater showed me. So, and now we have gotten our Steam login screen. And I'm going to stop here, because I don't want you to see my Steam login. There, and now we are logged into Steam. And let's go ahead and download a game. The game that I'm obviously going to pick is War Thunder. But I think this is a pretty good analogy because it is a pretty modern game, and I know it'll run on this hardware, which is not the greatest hardware in the world. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to click install, and we're going to let that go. This is a game that is going to take quite a while because it is like several dozen gigabytes. So I'll be back when it's done installing. I've actually decided to record the last part directly on the laptop that we just installed Linux Mint on because I want to make the point that, yeah, you absolutely can use Linux for media production. And you can see here now that the game that we started, War Thunder, is finally done downloading. It did take several hours because it's a several dozen gigabyte game. And now we're going to launch it, just to show that yes, you can indeed game on Linux. And there we can see the game is now launching. We are at the loading screen. First launch always takes a little while, especially when you're on a laptop that's not particularly powerful like this one. And there, now you can see we are in game. We're going to start the test to get the recommended settings. This game is going to give me absolute minimum settings for this. But you can see that it does seem to work. So, once we get the PS1 level graphics, because this is a pretty old laptop. Wow, I'm actually surprised it's giving it that high. So we're going to go maximum FPS. Just to run it on the toaster settings. And no, we're not going to restart now because I'm going to exit the game. And I'm going to show you guys another game. Just to prove that this isn't a one-off thing. You can see here that the RAM usage and stuff like that is pretty high because I am recording on the laptop. And let's start Tannenberg just to show you that more than one game will run. And that's Tannenberg for you. So, that is a complete walkthrough of how to install Linux for the first time. Right from downloading and burning the ISO to a USB, all the way to launching your first game. So, if you enjoyed this walkthrough, don't forget to like and subscribe and pray every day.